we are in a revolution. It's not going to replace engineers, but it's definitely going to evolve engineers into a newer version of themselves. One of my engineers, they wanted to start using Iceberg on top of S3. In the past, it would have taken them, I think, between 2 to 4 weeks. It was done in 2 days. I have this guy who works on deal prediction, or predictive analysis. He told me, Ohad, if you take away Claude from me, I'm leaving Gong. So it's not optional. Just having these agents based on the data in the right place, addressing real issues, saving time. This is what Gong does. That's why I'm really passionate about Gong, not only because I belong to Gong, because I can see the disruption and revolution that Gong is leading.
Hey everybody, welcome to the AI Speedrun podcast today with Ohad Parush, who's the Chief R&D Officer at Gong. Ohad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just going to jump right in with our first question. When you see this, AI has completely transformed our team's velocity, and you have to pick a number from 1 to 5. You cannot pick 3, even though it's there. What would you pick?
So I think it depends on who you are in the team. It's probably ranging. I'll try to be smart. It's somewhere between 2 and 4. So I didn't pick a 3. I picked a 2 and a 4. Okay, so and I'll tell you why. Because some of the actions that people are doing on a regular basis, it's definitely a 4. Because we are saving time. We're saving a huge amount of time for salespeople that are using Gong, because a lot of mundane work that they had to do on their own, they're not doing through Gong, and effectively, it means that they can spend more time on selling. I can give you an example. In the sales process, one of the most ubiquitous but also mundane and hated element in the sales process is handing over accounts from one person to another. And this happens on a regular basis, whether it's there is a territory change that you need to hand over the account to another rep, or whether you need to hand over the account, from the sales engineer to the account executive, to the SDR, to the account manager, to the professional services person, et cetera, et cetera. And there's also the update that the frontline manager needs to have, and the director, and all of that. And in doing so, you need to transfer and deliver a lot of information about what's happening in the account. Now, to do it in a structured manner and to cover everything that's been discussed so far is a very tedious work, especially you have to do it over and over again. And Gong has automated that, and now we have these AI briefs, or done by the AI briefer. That's the agent that does it. That with the click of a button and a few seconds, you have it, and you can update it on a regular basis. So suddenly, something that has been very tedious and cumbersome becomes much more effective, and also covers the main items that you'd want to cover. So it's not just a summary. It's a summary discussing that covers, aspects like the objections that were raised, the budget, the decision maker, the stages, the people that were involved in the process. And because Gong has all of the data, and because Gong understands, the whole sales process, we've taken out this very tedious work that has used to take you a lot of time. So in that sense, it's 4. On the other hand,
well, before we move on,
yeah,
I love this part because I remember seeing this. I used to be a PM at Cloudflare when deals were being handed over from SEs to SDRs, from SDRs to CSMs. It would not only, you will have to rely on people to write these documents with all of the right data, because you don't want to screw up these relationships, right?
Completely.
Super important. And that wasn't enough. So people would have to go on meetings and talk to each other. And with what you're explaining right now, you can skip all of that, make sure the information is accurate, and that busy work, people don't have to do it. Gong is doing that for you.
Completely. And you know what? We actually do more than that, because if you do want to see what happened on the call, we will give you the reference from within the brief to the exact call or email, so you can follow up directly and see how each issue was phrased, who raised the issue, what was kind of the tone, the sentiment. So it's not like we're masking information from you. We're giving the information to you on a silver platter, but we're also showing you how the sausage is made. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. And you were about to move this to 2, and tell me why.
So the two thing is I my role I oversee R&D at Gong. I'm the chief R&D officer at Gong, and we are an AI company. And as an AI company, we are avid users of various technologies around AI for engineers. Specifically, we are going all in with Anthropic's Cloud Code. Now, so far, it's promising, but it's also a bit frightening. And also sometimes there is hype. So this is where I would put it as a two, because on one hand, we're seeing some tremendous things that can be done through Cloud Code, and also Copilot Agent, and also Cursor, and it's all based on the models that are used behind them, but also the interface that delivers them. So on one hand, we're seeing amazing stuff, but on the other hand, we're also seeing some, question marks and buggy features and things that need to be, reviewed, and also some culture trends that we need to be aware of. How much do we trust? How much do we actually release control, and so on and so forth. So this is where I would say that currently we're at two, but just about I don't know a couple of months ago we were at one, or even before that. So with Cloud Code, with Sonnet 3.7, things have transformed. So I'm optimistic that I don't know if we'll get to a five, but definitely the road is paved to go to three and then to four.
Sounds super promising. You mentioned something interesting about the culture changing, and I'm really curious about that because, you have been doing this for a while. We've seen like how engineering teams operate when it comes to shipping code, reviewing code. A lot of those things are now getting offloaded, not completely, but like partially to AI. And I'm really curious how that changes the culture. Like, have you seen anything interesting there in terms of like code reviews or like CI/CD, how that's changing internally?
So I can share a few anecdotes. First of all, I have engineers that are using it on a regular basis. I have one person told me that he stopped coding. He's just now he's doing some he's doing vibe coding, vibing, and he just does code review. So that's one of the extreme. But even others, I have this guy who works on deal prediction or predictive analysis. He told me, Ohad, if you take away Claude from me, I'm leaving Gong. So it's not it's not optional. It's people who are and to some extent they're early adapters, but the move from early adapters to laggards is very quick because we're also investing resources in making it happen. People who start using it are hooked. But at the same time, sometimes we hear these statements that it's 10x faster. It's not really 10x faster. There are aspects that through it you can do immensely faster. Especially introducing new technologies. But other aspects are slower. Now, you asked about code reviews and security reviews and all of that. That's clearly an aspect that is going to pick up very, very quickly, and we're already investing resources in that because overseeing looking at all the changes that were introduced in the code and having Claude or ChatGPT or Flash from Google's Gemini review the code, give you insights, is just groundbreaking. At the same time, we're not going to rely just on that. So it's not going to be to replace the code review done by a peer, because we've also seen cases where it just kind of rounds corners and makes the wrong decisions that in extreme cases could also lead to incidents and severe issues. So it's somewhere in between. We're definitely seeing the promise. By the way, we've invested a lot in security around it because, as an enterprise company who invests a lot of effort in securing our data, securing our environment, it's not a clear, it's not just you go out and start using it. We manage our code very carefully and everything around it. So we're following best practices, both from Anthropic and also our internal pod security team. But all in all, we are in a revolution. It's not going to replace engineers, but it's definitely going to evolve engineers into a newer version of themselves.
I love it, and also explains why you picked two there. But things are looking really promising. I'm going to move on to the next question.
Of course.
This is not a 1 to 6 kind of a thing, but you basically have to pick one of those. Which part of the dev cycle in AI is most helpful for? This is actually very relevant to what you were saying before.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think that, the obvious question today is testing. The obvious answer today is testing because, you know, clear out of the bat, we are writing better code with our AI dev tools. That's the easiest thing. And by the way, I think that with Cloud Code and Cursor, we are definitely, the whole field is evolving. But at the same time, I'm seeing amazing and very positive trends around code generation and also the ability to debug.
So in a
Specifically,
lot of these, like it's like what it sounds like. It's touching every part of the life cycle.
it's touching every part, and but again, it's obviously if it's new code, it does an amazing job. If it has to get into existing code bases, it struggles. If you pose a challenging a task for it, sometimes, like I said, it rounds corners, or we've seen cases where it actually authors the tests to fit the exact use cases. So it's not actually testing; it's kind of cheating. And so all in all, you need to be careful. But it's the like I said, it's a revolution, and it's starting with test, moving to code generation to debugging. I have people that introduce new technologies, a new infrastructure into the code in a matter of a couple of days, something that in the past would have taken weeks, if not more.
Wow. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I had one of my engineers, they wanted to start using Iceberg on top of S3. In the past, it would have taken him, I think, between 2 to 4 weeks. It was done in 2 days. We were doing WebSockets. We, some aspect or feature that we're developing. The developer that was in charge of the project, a senior developer, but he didn't have much experience with WebSockets. Code was done in less than 2 days. Um, Specifically, it wasn't he had some specific issues that had to be addressed because we needed to record both sides of the conversation, etc., etc. So again, very quickly, very efficient code, and again, something that works within 2 days.
That's amazing. This reminds me of, I think when you're talking about AWS and Iceberg, when I first graduated from college, my first engineering job, I had to write these like YAML files for deploying to AWS, and I was writing Ansible, and figuring that out was a nightmare because the documentation was there, but it's
Terrible,
like
terrible.
didn't have a lot of use cases, a lot of like cases covered. But nowadays you can just ask Claude or ChatGPT to like write the config file for you, and boom, like you're done.
Exactly, and you're done. And obviously, sometimes you need to be careful because people always remind me. It was trained on the code that's in GitHub. And let's say not all the code that's in GitHub you want to be able to, you'd like to embed in your application. Okay, so you need to be careful and apply some caution. But at the same time, as a starting point, also to give you pointers and directions, it's priceless.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next one. So, very similar to last time, we're going to pick one of the options. AI has changed what engineering skills we hire for. Um, AI has changed what engineering skills we hire for. Uh, from 1 to 5, again, you cannot pick three.
So I'll stay on the fence here because I think it's too early to say that. What I can say is that, I think that AI has the potential to take junior engineers, engineers right out of college or university, and to transform them into much better engineers. But at the same time, we're still looking for engineers that have analytical capabilities, that can solve problems, that can learn code fast, code that they're not familiar with, and that can actually design and think about problems on one hand in an abstract manner, but also on the other hand be able to pinpoint and debug issues. So I think AI is going to make engineers better, but so far I don't really see that we're replacing skills or replacing the actual people that we're hiring. But again, it's early days, so that's why I said I'm still on the
Today,
fence.
if you had to pick a number, you would probably pick one.
I would stay with one because I don't think I'm seeing, empirically, it's not like we've changed our recruiting process. Even, I can tell you an anecdote. Sometimes, depending on the role, we give a home test. Now, I would expect every engineer today to take the home test and to get some help from a quote unquote friend, whether that friend is Anthropic or OpenAI or whoever that is. We're still doing that. And it's amazing how, you're able to, because obviously we review the test afterwards, face to face. And those that are not good, the fact that they got some assistance from a friend, it doesn't really, affect their, they're still struggling when it comes to the face-to-face test because they're not able to improvise, they're not able to take it to the next level. So these capabilities, this is still the core capabilities that we're looking for, and so far that hasn't changed.
That makes a lot of sense. Like I saw a tweet the other day. It was like a half kidding, half joking kind of a tweet where people were saying like AI engineers are just rebranded full stack engineers. Um,
Could be, could be.
because you're still assessing the same sort of problem solving skills and aptitude when you were interviewing them.
Yeah, it's people are saying, at some point we'll all do vibe coding, like Lovable, and we won't need any engineers to do some, to do actual coding. I doubt this would be the case because we're looking at if we develop for scale, for enterprise, edge cases, across many repos, with many extreme scenarios to take into consideration. I think AI would definitely make it easier for us, guide us in the right direction, but it's not going to replace us. This is what I'm seeing now, and it's on record, so I might need to change, to ask you to delete this um, in the future. But at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, when I started coding, at some point there was this trend that called it, it was XP, extreme programming, and one of the trends that
Oh
we
yeah,
had
yeah,
there
yeah.
was
There were
to
so
do
many books about that, Ohad, right? Remember? Like extreme programming.
exactly,
That's like
exactly.
everyone was recommending that book.
Everyone was doing extreme programming, and one of the big fads that we had at the time was to do pair programming.
Yeah.
And people thought that it would be more efficient because you have two people. One was actually telling you what to write, and the other one was clicking the code. Now, fortunately, this didn't last long because it wasn't really efficient. The idea was that you'll get much code at a higher quality. So, but at the end, surprisingly AI now is my peer in program, and this is how I believe we need to treat it. Because if you do peer programming with your AI, the AI suggests what to write, you review it, you challenge it, etc., etc. You one write code faster, you write code at a higher quality, and you're able to achieve and have a broader perspective over what needs to be done.
It's the pair programmer we deserved. It's finally
Exactly.
here.
Exactly. Man and machine, combined for to save the day.
I love it. My last question. What is your favorite AI tool or tools that you personally use or your team at Gong?
But you know the answer.
We could start with Gong, and then other than Gong, what else is there?
So the answer is Gong, not only because I work for Gong and this is going to be online, and I need to keep my job. The answer is Gong because you know there are so many conversations that take place in Gong that I don't attend them, and just seeing the information, the summaries, which are just beyond amazing, and the ability to collaborate. I'm not talking about sales calls. I'm talking because we are fortunate to be able to use Gong for across the whole company. This is saving me so much time, and this actually eliminates so much confusion, and enables collaboration that it's just unbelievable. So obviously the favorite AI tool that I recommend to everyone around me is Gong. Other than that, we're all using the latest and greatest LLM. Nowadays, it's Gemini, the Flash 2.5 Pro, which is truly amazing. I've been using it, especially. I love to see the way that it actually shares with you its thinking process. You can actually expand and see its thinking process. Amazing. And I use it. I actually have conversations with it. I use it. In the office, I use Gemini for the conversations. When I'm driving or when I'm walking the dog, I'm having conversations with ChatGPT, the voice interface. It's amazing how it actually helps me. refine ideas and think about the next thing that I can do, whether it's on a technical perspective or HR challenges, people challenges that I have, and so on and so forth, and even personal things that I'd like to do in my community. I discuss it with this bot. Sometimes my wife tells me that she feels neglected, but we figure it out separately. Other than that, of course, like I mentioned, from a professional perspective, Cloud Code is what we're currently focusing on. We're investing a lot of effort in this, in making it the tool of choice for our engineers, and we believe that the ROI on that is going to be tremendous.
I love it. Going back to what you were saying about like talking to Gemini, like I remember doing this a lot when it first like came out, where I would go on walks with my AirPods on and I will just have conversations with it, trying to understand the
Exactly.
concept better. And it was amazing, except for one part where it wouldn't know when not to interrupt. Like other than that, it was amazing.
I agree. I agree. And it's I've tried practicing my Spanish and my Arabic with it, and I tried asking it questions about music and also questions about development paradigms.
Hmm.
It's an amazing companion. Like they say, sometimes it's too eager to please, and mind my French, but the answers are bullshit. But mostly, it's really fun and really actually helps me set things straight.
Yeah, yeah. With that, Ohad, like I just wanted to say thank you so much. This was an amazing episode.